Let's see how you're doing on these so far. So the first one up here, multiplying. When we multiply mixed numbers, what do we have to do to them? Turn them into improper fractions. Very good. 3 1/8 becomes 25/8. Good. 3 1/5? 16/5. Then what? We could multiply them straight out, but before we do that, what can we do with this one? We can reduce. Cross cancel. 8 and 16 both divide by 8. So they'll give me 1 and 2. 25 and 5 both divide by 5, which will give me 1 and 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Bless you. 1 times 1 is 1. 10 over 1 or just 10. Any questions on that one? Number 2, what do we start out with when we're dividing mixed numbers? Make them improper. 5 and 1/3 becomes 16/3. 3 and 1/5, 16/5. This is still multiplication. So our next step is to, do I make this 3/16? No. First one never changes. The operation always acts on the second number. So I change that to times the reciprocal of the second number, which is 5 over 16. Now what can we do? Well, 16s cancel out, right? Now it's still multiplication, so now I can cross cancel. Those are 1 and 1. So 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 over 3, or 1 and 2/3. Any questions there? Okay. 3 and 4, when we add and subtract, I usually prefer to set them up vertically. And remember, when we add or subtract, we must have the same name. So for 8 and 6, what do we get for our common denominator? 24. Very good. What is this top one going to become? 3/8 is going to become 9/24. Good. And 5/6 will become 20/24. Any questions on how we found the common denominators? We're good with those. Okay. Then we add. 9 and 20 make 29/24. What do we have to do with that? Make it 1 and 5/24. So the 5/24 is okay. We carry the 1. 1, 5, and 2 make 8. Very good. Over here, the 7 and 1/4 minus 4 and 2/3. Again, I'm going to set it up vertically. And again, we need common denominator. For 3 and 4, that's going to be 12. Good. 1/4 becomes 3/12, and 2/3 becomes 8/12. We go to subtract. 3/12 minus 8/12. Can't be done. So we need to borrow. 7 becomes a 6. This becomes 15. Good. Remember, that one object we borrowed has pieces in it. The denominator tells us how many pieces. You're adding the denominator to the numerator. So now we have 15/12 minus 8/12, which is 7/12, and 6 minus 4, 2. Good. Any questions on those? You guys get a chance to figure out how to use your calculator on them? Or? No? Like I said, if you're looking for a calculator for these, the TI-30 does the fractions extremely well. For those of you that are going on to take business math, the TI-30 2 like that is the calculator that would get you through that class as well. So if you're looking for it, that's the one to look for. Business math, your cell phone will get you through about the first 12 weeks, and then after that, okay. So anyway, our next step, we need to look at, just like we did with whole numbers, what happens when we have more than one operation with our fraction? Well, first, just a little review. How do we do that? 3/5 to the power of 3. Yeah, there's 3 of them multiplied together. Then on top, it's just 3 times 3 times 3, which is just 3 to the third, right? On bottom, 5 times 5 times 5 is 5 to the third. So to do that fraction to a power, we can just take the numerator to that power. 3 to the third is 27. And then the denominator to that power, 5 to the third is 125. So when we look at doing order of operations now with these fractions, we might have 3/4 minus 1/3 times 1/2 squared plus 1/3. Are there any enclosing symbols? Well, we see a parentheses. Is it telling us to do anything? Yeah. Inside the parentheses, there's nothing to do. It's just separating it out. It is actually involved in our first operation, but not just because it's parentheses. The next level on our order of operations is exponents. And the exponent is actually involved with the parentheses there. That's 1/2 squared. So 1/2 squared, or 1/2 to the power of 2, becomes what? Yeah, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. Everything else stays the same. Now, what's our next level of priority? Multiply. Multiply and divide. Good. So I have to do 1/4 or 1/3 times 1/4, which is 1/12. Good. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 4 is 12. Everything else stays the same. Now all that's left is addition and subtraction, so we go left to right. 3/4 minus 1/12. I have to change the 3/4 to 12, don't I? 3/4 becomes 9/12. 9/12 minus 1/12 is 8/12. Well, I can reduce that 8/12 to both divided by 4. Gives me 2/3. 2/3 plus 1/3? Yeah, 3/3 or 1. Not so bad? Oh boy. We'll do that. Actually, let's do this. That'll work better. I'm going to have you try that one in your notes. Okay, so we have enclosing symbols. We have the parentheses. We have to do 2/3 minus 1 1/3. Now this is going to be negative, isn't it? Think of it as 2/3 plus a negative 1 1/3. It's positive 2/3, negative 1 1/3. It ends up being negative 2/3. I'm leaving it in parentheses just so we can keep it separated as a negative. Our next step is to multiply. 1 1/2 times a negative 2/3. Well, this is 3/2 times negative 2/3, which is a negative 1. Now we have 2 3/4 minus a negative 1 becomes plus a positive 1. That's 3 3/4. 3 3/4 plus 3 1/2 is 7 1/4. How many of you came up with that? Okay. Any questions? We might have this one. Now remember, the fraction bar means division, and it's also an enclosing symbol. It means we have to do everything on top first. So on top, we have 2 3/4 minus 1 1/2. What's that come out to be? 1 1/4. On bottom, we have to do the 1 7/8 times 1 3/5. 1 7/8. We have to make that improper. 1 times 8 is 8 plus 7 is 15/8. 1 3/5 becomes 8/5. Now, of course, we can do some cross canceling. The 8's cancel. Both divide by 8 to give me 1 and 1. 15 and 5 will cancel. Both divide by 5 to give me 1 and 3. What we have here is 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 3/1, or just 3. Now we have division here. 1 1/4 divided by 3. I'm going to treat that as 3/1. 1 1/4. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5/4. Instead of dividing by 3/1, I'm going to multiply by 1/3. 5 times 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. We get 5/12. What do you think? Not so bad? Let's have you guys try one. Yeah, we're going to keep that as times. Make it easier on us. Let's see what you come up with there. I'll give you a couple minutes. So let's see how you're doing. We do the top first. What is 2 1/2 times 1 1/4? 2 1/2 times 1 1/4. It's going to become 2 1/2 becomes 5 halves. 1 1/4 becomes 5/4. Now that looks like it should cancel out nicely, but it doesn't cancel out at all. 5 times 5 is 25, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now I could reduce that to 3 1/8, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it like that because my next step is going to be divide, and when I divide, I have to have it as improper fractions anyway. So now I have the 2 3/8 plus 1 2/3. Common denominator is going to be 24. 3/8 becomes 9 24ths, and 2/3 becomes 16. That adds to become 25 24ths, which of course is 1 1/24. So we will, I disappeared on me. So we will keep the 1/24, carry the 1, which gives us 4. So what we have here is 4 1/24. Now this is simply division. That's 25 over 8 divided by 4 1/24. The 25 over 8 is already an improper fraction. 4 1/24, well, 4 times 24 is 96, plus 1 is 97 over 24. And now we're going to change it to multiplication. The first fraction does not change. Becomes times 24 over 97. We can cross cancel the 8 and 24. Both divide by 8, give me 1 and 3. 25 times 3 is 75. 1 times 97 is 97. 75, 97. How many of you had that? Good deal. These fractions can also be used in word problems. For example, let's say a bookcase is 51 inches tall. And has 4 shelves. The bottom shelf, I cannot spell today. The bottom shelf is 3.5 inches off the floor. Each other shelf is 3/4 of an inch thick. What is the space if spaced evenly? What is the space between shelves? This one always confuses people a little bit because they wonder, well, does the top count as a shelf or not? In this case, we are going to count the top as a shelf. Let's see. So we have this diagram here. This is a total of 51 inches. But we said the bottom shelf, or the top of the bottom shelf, is 3.5 inches off the floor. So that's one shelf. There's a total of 4 shelves. One of those shelves is going to be on top. The other ones have to be evenly spaced. Each of them is 3/4 of an inch thick. So the first step we have to do is figure out how much has already been used up. We have 1, 2, 3, 3/4. So let's just do 3/4 times 3. We're going to make it times 3 over 1. That's 9/4, or 2 1/4 inch. That's used up by the shelf thicknesses. That's why it's nice having different colors. I can color them in so I know they've been used. The next thing I need is this space down here to the top of that bottom shelf. So now I'm going to add that 3.5 inches to my 2 1/4. That's now 5 3/4 inches. So that's the amount that has been used up. So the total amount of space is the whole thing, 51 minus 5 3/4. Well, how do we subtract that fraction from a whole number? Well, we borrow from this 1, makes it a 0. The 1 that we borrowed is 4/4. So instead of 51, we write it as 50 4/4. Now we can subtract 4 minus 1 is 1/4. 50 minus 5 is 45. So the total open space here is 45 1/4 inch. How many spaces are there? 3, right? So that 45 1/4 inch is going to be split evenly between those 3 spaces. So 45 1/4 divided by 3. 45 times 4 is 180, plus 1 is 181 over 4. Dividing by the 3, we make that a 3 over 1. So we times 1 over 3. So we have 181 times 1 is 181. 4 times 3 is 12. And we have to convert that back into an improper fraction. Or not to an improper fraction, a mixed number, I should say, from an improper fraction to a mixed number. 12 does not go into 1. 12 goes into 18 once, so take out 12, there's 6 left. Bring down the 1. 12 goes into 16 5 times. That'd be 60. There's 1 left over. We're at the end of our number, so that's just 1/12. So each space is 15 1/12 of an inch. What do you think? Not so bad. Okay, well, that's pretty much all we have for today's material, for this week's material. There is, remember, a quiz that was assigned yesterday that is due tonight at 11:59 p.m. And there is a new homework that was assigned yesterday, due for Monday at class time. Also remember, Unit 2 test is 1 week from today. It's next Thursday. So be preparing for that. Next week, Monday, we'll wrap up all of our new material for the unit pretty much. Wednesday, we'll do a review for the test, and Thursday will be the test.